Every single one of XAI's original co-founders is gone. All 11. Elon Musk just admitted the company was not built right the first time. If you use Grok, this is the company building it, with none of the people who started it still there. Internal memos reveal the real plan isn't to out-invent anyone, it's to copy Claude until Anthropic's own users switch over. In the next few minutes, who left, what the leaked memo says, and whether this rebuild can actually work. Let's start with the number that should stop you, 11 of 11. Every original co-founder who helped Elon Musk start XAI in 2023 has now left the company. It didn't happen all at once. It happened in waves, and the pattern is worth walking through because it tells its own story. Igor Babushkin left first, back in August 2025, to go start his own AI safety venture. He was one of the key technical minds behind the company's early research direction, and his exit was the first real crack in the founding team. Then, in March 2026, things accelerated fast. Jihang Dai and Guodong Zheng both gone within days of each other. Zhang had been heading up XAI's Imagine team, the group behind Grok's image and video generation tools. Then Manuel Quas left, the engineer who led the pre-training team, meaning the group directly responsible for actually building and training the core model. Losing your pre-training lead isn't like losing a marketing director. That's losing the person overseeing how the AI itself gets built. And then on March 28th, the very last one, Ross Nordin. Nordin wasn't just any co-founder. He reported directly to Musk. People close to the company called him Musk's right-hand operator. He'd followed Musk over from Tesla, where he'd worked on supercomputing infrastructure, and he'd even helped coordinate the layoffs at X. After Musk bought that company, he led XAI's data center strategy, negotiating massive compute deals, including multi-gigawatt agreements with partners in Saudi Arabia. If anyone was going to stay until the end, people expected it to be him. He didn't. Within a single week in late March, the last two founding members, Croix and Nordin, were both gone. The company Musk built, with 11 other people 3 years earlier, now had exactly one of those 12 names still on the roster, his own. So what could possibly push every single founding member out the door, one after another? The answer starts with a deal that changed what XAI even was. In February 2026, SpaceX acquired XAI outright in an all-stock deal that valued the combined companies at $1.25 trillion. On paper, this looked like Musk building an empire. Rockets, AI, and social media, all under one roof. But here's what actually happened inside the company. XAI stopped being its own independent thing. It got folded into SpaceX's structure, with SpaceX's own people stepping in to run it. At least 12 confidants from Musk's other companies, SpaceX, Tesla, his family office, his personal venture network, were moved into XAI's top leadership. Not one of them had a background in AI research. Think about what that actually means for the people who'd spent years building XAI's actual technology. The company they'd founded didn't just get new investment, it got taken over by outsiders who didn't understand the work and reported to executives who'd built their careers on rockets and cars, not machine learning. And then Musk did something most CEOs never do. He said the quiet part out loud. In a direct post, Musk wrote, XAI was not built right first time around, so is being rebuilt from the foundations up. That's an extraordinary thing for a CEO to say publicly. Most companies losing this many senior people put out a statement about exciting new chapters. Musk instead said the company was built wrong. Not struggling, not adjusting. Wrong from the start. He didn't stop there either. Musk publicly apologized for how the company had handled hiring, writing. Many talented people over the past few years were declined an offer or even an interview at XAI. My apologies. That's not a small admission. That's the founder of the company saying, on the record, that XAI turned away talented people it needed for years. So if the plan is to rebuild from the ground up, what does that rebuild actually look like on the inside? The reporting on this got specific, and it's messier than you'd expect. According to Bloomberg's reporting, the rebuild wasn't clean or organized. As part of the plan, XAI tried to cut up to 30% of its workforce in March. But the process was so chaotic that some employees were reportedly let go without anyone formally telling them. It went the other way too. The company was trying to hire fast to replace the people it had just lost, but its HR department was so understaffed that promising candidates would get interviewed and then simply never hear back because no one could finish the paperwork to bring them on. Inside the company, according to Bloomberg, some staff began to quietly doubt whether Musk himself was the right person to be steering this. His entire track record was built on cars and rockets. AI research is a completely different discipline, and some employees reportedly felt he was out of his depth. With that much internal doubt, you'd expect the new leadership to at least have a clear, focused plan. Instead, the plan that emerged might be the most telling detail in this whole story. To lead this rebuild, Musk brought in Michael Nichols, a former SpaceX Starlink executive with 5 years of experience running satellite deployment. He had no AI research background at all. His job before this was building and running Starlink's global network across more than 150 countries, not training language models or leading machine learning teams. Think about that choice for a second. xAI had just lost every single person who actually understood how to build its core technology. And to fix that, Musk didn't promote from within the technical ranks. He brought in someone whose entire career was about deploying satellites and expanding infrastructure, a completely different discipline. Musk's own logic, according to people familiar with the decision, was that Nichols had proven he could take something complex and scale it fast, the same way Starlink scaled from nothing to serving over 150 countries. Whether that skill transfers to building a frontier AI model is an entirely different question. According to internal documents reviewed by Bloomberg Businessweek, Nichols' instructions to staff were direct. Catch up with Anthropic's Claude. Every time Claude released an update, Musk wanted Grok to match it. He wanted Claude's own users to switch over to Grok instead. Here's the detail that makes this feel real, not just a rumor. Multiple internal projects at xAI reportedly referenced Claude by name. There were Slack channels inside the company literally named after their competitor. In his own memo to staff, Nichols wrote, "Our near-term goals are to match performance of Claude, and that the team's job was to make Grok maximally useful." Sit with that. The company's own new president wasn't rallying people around a bold vision of what Grok could uniquely become. He was rallying them around catching up to someone else's product. Now, is copying a competitor actually a losing strategy? Or is it smarter than it sounds? It's worth looking at both sides honestly before judging. Here's the case for Nichols' approach. Claude has become one of the most trusted names in AI for coding, reasoning, and enterprise use. There's a real argument that chasing a proven leader, feature by feature, beats gambling on something unproven. Plenty of companies have won by copying a leader and simply executing it better. But xAI has a problem no strategy memo can fix. You can't out-execute a rival while your own team is walking out the door. Matching Claude's performance takes months of stable, focused engineering work. Losing every single founding member during that exact window is about as unstable as a company can get. Think of it like a relay race. You can absolutely win a relay by copying the winning team's strategy, studying their handoffs, their pacing, their training, but not if you keep dropping the baton between runners. Right now, xAI is trying to copy the winning strategy while simultaneously rebuilding its entire relay team from zero with none of the original runners left on the track. And this rebuild isn't happening quietly in the background. It's happening while some of the biggest money in tech is watching closely. This isn't just an engineering story. It's a financial one, playing out on a very public clock. Tesla, Musk's own company, committed $2 billion into xAI, tied to a $20 billion funding round the company had already announced. That's an enormous amount of outside capital now riding on this rebuild actually working. And the timing is brutal. SpaceX went public on the NASDAQ in June 2026 in the largest IPO in history. xAI's fate, its funding, its credibility, its valuation, is now directly tied to SpaceX's public stock price. Investors watching that stock are also watching whether the AI division underneath it can actually deliver. A company visibly rebuilding from a complete founder exodus, right as its parent company answers to public shareholders for the first time, is about as much pressure as a tech team can be under. On top of all that, Musk has also been pushing an internal project called Macrohard, an attempt to build an AI agent system that can emulate an entire software company on its own. Not just write code, but plan, design, test, and ship like a full engineering organization. run almost entirely by AI agents working together. It's an enormous, almost sci-fi sounding bet, similar in spirit to the orbital data centers idea Musk has floated for SpaceX. And by most expert accounts, nobody outside the company is even sure Macrohard is possible with today's technology, let alone something xAI can deliver while simultaneously rebuilding its entire research team from scratch. It's worth asking honestly, is it realistic for a company that just lost its pre-training lead, its data center strategist, and every other founding technical mind to simultaneously chase Claude's core capabilities and pull off one of the most ambitious AI projects anyone has proposed? Or is Macrohard exactly the kind of moonshot announcement that's easy to make in a press release and much harder to deliver from a team that's still finding its footing? So, after the exodus, the memo, and the money, what does any of this actually mean if you're someone who just uses Grok? If you're using Grok today, here's the honest, practical read. Expect more changes, and expect a lot of them to start looking like features you've already seen on Claude. That's not automatically bad news. If xAI genuinely executes on matching Claude's performance, the product in your hands could get noticeably better over the coming months, even if none of it is original. But it also means Grok's near-term direction isn't coming from a bold new vision. It's coming from a catch-up mission, run by a satellite executive, inside a company that just lost every person who originally built it. If you're deciding whether to rely on Grok for serious work right now, that's worth knowing clearly. You'd be trusting a company that has publicly admitted its first attempt failed, that lost its entire founding team in the process of fixing it, and is still in the early messy stages of proving its second attempt can work. But there's a piece of this puzzle we haven't touched yet, because matching Claude isn't just about features, it's also about trust, and that's an area where xAI has its own separate problem. Here's what make Grok maximally useful a harder goal than it sounds. Usefulness isn't just about capability. It's about whether people trust the product enough to rely on it for serious work. And trust is exactly where xAI has struggled the most publicly. Grok has faced real documented controversies over content moderation and safety failures, the kind of headlines that Claude, for all its own limitations, has largely avoided by design. Anthropic built its entire brand around safety-first development. xAI has spent the past year building a brand around speed and edginess instead. That's not a small gap to close. You can copy a feature list in months. Rebuilding a reputation for safety and reliability, especially after public incidents, usually takes years if it happens at all. So even if Nicole's engineering team does manage to match Claude's raw capability, xAI still has a separate, harder mountain to climb, convincing serious users and enterprises that Grok is a safe, dependable choice, not just a fast one. So, with all of that working against them, what would it actually look like if this rebuild started succeeding? Here's what to watch for. If xAI's rebuild is genuinely working, there are a few concrete signs you'd expect to see over the coming months. First, you'd expect Grok's benchmark scores to start closing the gap with Claude specifically, not just improving in general, but improving on the exact tasks Claude is known for, like coding and reasoning with tools. Second, you'd expect to see xAI's new leadership team start attracting serious AI research talent back to the company, not just executives from Musk's other ventures. A rebuild that's working pulls people in. A rebuild that's failing keeps losing them. Third, and maybe most tellingly, you'd expect the Slack channel obsession with Claude to fade over time, replaced by projects with their own name and identity. A company that's caught up to its rival stops talking about the rival constantly. A company still chasing keeps mentioning them. If none of those things happen over the next 6 months, that's a much stronger signal than anything in a memo. It would mean the rebuild is still just a plan, not a result. So, is xAI actually being rebuilt into something stronger, or is this chaos wearing a hopeful press release? Based on everything here, the honest answer is, it's genuinely too early to know. A clear plan exists, billions of dollars are behind it, but you cannot look past the fact that every single person who built this company from nothing chose to leave it. During the exact months it was trying to prove itself to the world, Musk said it himself, xAI wasn't built right the first time. The real question isn't whether they're trying again, they clearly are. It's whether rebuilding with none of the original team means they're building on solid ground, or just running toward the same mistakes, faster. If this helped you understand what's really happening behind Grok, subscribe for more breakdowns like this. And tell me in the comments, do you think XAI can actually catch Claude, or is this rebuild already too far behind?